Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Get ready to be inspired, hear success stories, and learn tips and principles for bringing out the best in everyone. And now, here's your host and CEO of Ruh Global Impact, Debra Ruh. Hello, everyone. This is Doug Foresta, and I'm here with, or Debra's here with me, I'm here with her. Either way you want to look at it. We're going to be talking about Billion Strong, which, if you're listening to this on One Any Podcast, is a new identity organization that Debra Ruh, who's the CEO of Ruh Global Impact, has created. And Debra, first of all, maybe if you want to say a little bit about yourself. You've been in the disability inclusion space for how?
Depending upon how you calculate it, I might say 34 years, because when my oldest daughter was born with Down syndrome, I became even more interested in this community. But I've been in the field being an entrepreneur since 2000. Wow, what is that? 21 years. Yeah.
21 years. Yeah. It's crazy. It's so fun. Yeah. And you've done so many different things. Even since I've known you now over a decade. And you've always been providing value for this community. You've given a lot to this community. And I'm so excited about Billion Strong. And I said, it's an identity community. Let's explain to people who might not know, even people if they're listening on Human Potential at Work, might not understand or know exactly what it is. Explain what Billion Strong is.
I will. And I'm also going to explain why Billion Strong. And of course, the first answer to why Billion Strong is that there are 1.3 billion people with disabilities in the world, or according to the World Health Organization. But I believe that those numbers are much lower than estimated, because not all country does a census, and not all people with disabilities want to really identify that they are part of the community. I myself have invisible disabilities or hidden disabilities. I have ADHD, which, by the way, so do about 65% of other entrepreneurs, but it's still defined as a disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and also under the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. But I was really worried about supply and demand, because, as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Ruh Global Impact, and I have been an employer of people with disabilities. I've had another company called Tech Access, where we were focused on making sure technology was accessible. Today, Ruh Global Impact, we have employees with disabilities all over the world. We are a think tank and strategist. We work with gigantic, large corporations, helping them understand why their brand needs to include us, and all the powerful work that's being done by so many all throughout the States and all throughout the world. But at the same time, I started worrying a little bit about the supply and the demand, because we have things like the Valuable 500, where 500 multinational corporations have agreed to come together and make disability inclusion a priority at the C-suite, which is wonderful. But the problem is, where do they find us? Because I know that the CEO of Wells Fargo during the pandemic and the height of some of the Black Lives Matter, just the problems watching police officers kneel on somebody's neck, anyway, horrifying things. But the CEO of Wells Fargo had made a comment that got him in big trouble, saying that he could not find brown and black people with talented people to put in leadership. And everybody got real mad about that.
That was not the answer people were looking for.
And it was ridiculous, because there's so many brown and black people that are so talented. So it's ridiculous. And by the way, go to Black Women Engineers. There are so many wonderful organizations that will bring you talented individuals that are brown and black. But unfortunately, it is true with our community, the community of people with disabilities. It really is true. And I know that there was a database that somebody looked at and it had 107 resumes in it, Doug. So we have 500 corporations including us. We have got to come out. And that was the problem that I was thinking. This is not good. If our community can't come out and identify and embrace our lived experiences, our corporation's going to be deciding our fate. And so I just thought it's something I've always wanted to do, but that was what was the catalyst this time, Doug, to say, all right, we have got to come together. The work I've been doing for years to me is like community organization anyway. I've been telling other people's stories. It was just the time for us. Could we really come together? Could we come together in an empowering, beautiful way? And if we did nothing else, Doug, but supported each other as a community of people with disabilities, and certainly our allies and our accomplices, and we look at all the intersections, we can change the world for people with disabilities like never before. But it is an audacious goal. It is. I want to admit it's audacious.
Yeah. And I think that's wonderful. And I wonder, do you think that the pandemic, you came up with this idea during a time that wasn't not the most pleasant time in human history. It disrupted so many things. Do you think that, I'm curious, do you think there's a connection between COVID and this?
I do. Because one thing I feel like for years, I feel a little bit like I've been nagging everybody going, this is ridiculous. Include people with disabilities. We add value. We've been adding value since, mankind began. So but then what we saw when we all went home to stay home, stay safe, shelter in place, 40% of the children in the United States could not access education. We saw more Americans with disabilities self-identifying than ever before. And the reason why was they understood they needed accommodations to be productive working from home. And we saw the productivity across the board go way up. And so the employers are understanding the value of, it's starting to really understand that we actually can be productive even if we're working from home. And so the pandemic actually showed us that we're not just talking about people with disabilities not being included. If technology doesn't work for us, it's not accessible, or you're deliberately not including us, it's everybody that's going to be impacted. So that's one thing that we learned during the pandemic.
And we also learned, I think, that when we think about accommodation, how many times have we heard employers or people say, it's just too hard, it's too hard to accommodate people. But isn't it interesting when we had to accommodate enough people, right? Like when it was, you can't come there's a pandemic and you can't come in, employers made the accommodation for everybody, like you're saying. When it's for everyone, when you can't run the business without it, all of a sudden you find the will to do it. And it's that collective. I think that's the piece that's so powerful about a community. It's the collective. If one person calls an organization and says, hey, I don't like what you're doing, they'll probably ignore you. But if 50 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, then all of a sudden there's that power of the collective.
And that is such a good point, Doug. You made me think of something. I remember I spoke at a national Down syndrome group because my daughter has Down syndrome years ago. And there was, if I remember correctly, there was about 4,000 families there. It was a really great turnout. And I was saying to the audience, if we did nothing else but just our families, our 4,000 families, if we went to these corporations that are including us and these corporations that aren't including us, and we wrote letters or 4,000 of us families got on social media and started saying, we appreciate Ernst & Young that you're making a priority to include programs about mental health. And we appreciate Microsoft that you're working hard to make technology accessible. Just 4,000 families could change everything. So then you step back and you think, okay, but we're more than 1 billion people. And some people said, oh, make the name of the organization Billion Abilities or billion abled. And it's no, let's stop with these ridiculous words. Let's say that we are 1 billion strong, because people with disabilities are not broken. People with disabilities have been adding value to society forever, but society disables people. Society disables us by not including. Society disables us by not accommodating us. Society disables us by deciding that some of the things that my friends have had to, just what people say to them. A friend of mine, Debra Ruh, who is in the United Kingdom, who is blind, he had one of his coworkers say that he didn't know, I don't know how you do it, man. I'd rather be dead than be blind. What? And how is
Wow.
he supposed to
Wow.
respond? Or when my beautiful daughter
Yeah.
was with Down syndrome, and all my friends are like, oh, it's such a tragedy. My daughter's life is not a tragedy. So I think while we're breaking everything, tearing everything down during this pandemic, and it's confusing times, I think there's never been a more important time to dig into our identity and really, could we be proud of our lived experiences with disability? So just myself, I'm a woman over 60. I am a woman with ADHD. I am a woman that struggles with anxiety and depression. I actually, during the pandemic, went on medication to help because it's intense. The trauma is intense. It's intense right now. I am a mother. I'm a mother of a grown daughter with Down syndrome. And it was much easier supporting and protecting my daughter when she was young in school than it is once they get out of school. That's a lot of problems have happened as
Hmm.
she gotten older. And on top of it, I'm a wife. I'm a wife of almost 40 years. And my husband now has late stage dementia, which is, gosh, that's a hard journey. There's silver linings along the way. But my husband was hit by a car when he was 11
But
years
it's
old.
still hard. Still hard.
Yeah, the traumatic brain injury that he sustained it turned into dementia as he's aging. And so we're not broken. My family's not broken. My family is just a normal family. But we've got to stop saying in
Hmm.
society that people with disabilities can't and shouldn't be included. It's ridiculous because we are going to be
That's right.
included. And I'll make
Right.
one more comment, Doug. Whenever I was deciding to do this, along with the amazing team that I have at Root Global Impact, people were saying, I know a lot of people all over the world in this field because I've been doing the work so long. And I went to different people and I asked for advice. You're one of my advisors. And I had some people saying to me, don't do it in the States because here in the United States, it's so confusing. Don't do it here. And I'm like, I live here. I'm proud to be an American. And
Just give up
they're
on the whole country.
yeah, only do it in the States. And I thought, no, what about our brothers and sisters that are in the other countries, especially the developing countries? And so it's got to be all of us coming
That's right.
together. And so I
Yeah.
think now is the time. And so what I actually did was right away, because we've been working on this for about 2 months now, I went out and started getting country partners. And we have, I think, 65 countries that are involved. And of course, we want all countries and we want representatives in every single state because there are people with disabilities all over the world. And there are people that love people with disabilities all over the world. And if we did nothing else, Doug, but we just supported each other, we employed each other, we bought from each other, we supported entrepreneurs with disabilities,
Yeah.
we looked at the intersections.
Yeah.
This is Pride Month, LGBT. What about LGBT people that are also members and have lived experiences with disability? And what about gender?
Right.
You know, we're very focused on gender, but what about women with disabilities? What about girls with disabilities? Mentoring, and what about intern programs where we have mentors that look like they have disabilities and are proud of it? Because you should be proud of your lived experiences. So that's what we're trying to do here. And I think that's a real opportunity. I think it's an opportunity like we've never seen. And I don't know, Doug, that maybe we could have done it before. I remember I used to use a hashtag called Vote with Your Wallet, trying to get our community to just, our voices to be heard more meaningfully. But I didn't ever get a lot of traction on that. But I believe that Billion Strong is a game changer. I really do.
One of the things that you mentioned how society disables people. And I think that's absolutely true because we decide who we're going to include or exclude by how we build our buildings, where we hold meetings, so many things. There's so many ways in which we construct a world that doesn't work for everyone. I also think that post COVID, maybe it has given us a little bit of appreciation that we live in these fragile bodies, and that being able-bodied is only a snapshot in time. It is, our bodies will fail us all. We don't want to think about that, but
Right.
we live in these bodies that are not, we're not Superman and Superwoman.
I know, I know. And also, why do we think our lived experiences aren't valuable? Because having a lived experience in the different lived experiences that I have, I learned so
Yeah,
much from those lived experiences. So we should honor
yeah,
the lived experiences. And you produce my human potential at work. And I really appreciate that in Workforce 180. It's interesting. I've had so many guests that are so talented with disabilities. And they're the ones that keep saying, society is disabling me. I remember one guest said that she wished the only thing she had to deal with was muscular dystrophy. But she didn't. She actually has to
right.
deal with society wondering if she can do that. Could she get married? Can she have children? What?
Yeah,
It's time to stop this
right.
ridiculousness and deciding that some people are less valuable because they're a woman, because they have the wrong color skin, they have a disability. We've got to stop it. We need to really honor each other, but also be very deliberate about the intersections of diversity and inclusion as well.
So, Deborah, I want to make sure people understand what some of the things that Billion Strong will do, because I can picture someone hearing this and saying, okay, so what exactly will this community do? So tell us a little bit about some of the things that you want to do. And my understanding is a lot of it's going to come from the community itself, right? This is not a top down, Debra Ruh is going to tell you what Billion Strong will do.
Yeah, and of course we have many ideas of what we're going to do, but we want the community to help us. So we're asking the community to join the movement. We're also asking the community to please donate to the movement, because the reality is I've been in this field a long time, and Doug, how much money of my own money that I've invested in this work. I've put my house up. I've done things that sometimes might seem really stupid that I would spend this much money, but I believe in this community. And I'm tired of society deciding our community can't meaningfully be engaged and included. And we want to do a lot of things, but we want to do, for example, we want to do mentoring. We want to do coaching. We want to do professional development. We want to do master classes, but we want to actually use our community, people with disabilities, whether they're hidden or they're apparent, and we want to talk about our lives. And I've been actually doing this work for so long. I've been telling the story about our community and all what we do and what corporations are supporting us and which countries do a better job. We've been doing that for years. We have lots of content. But I will also say that representation matters when you're dealing with an identity organization. I'm not going to be the CEO of the company. Instead, I selected Dr. Lamondre Pugh, who is a man with lived experiences as an African American growing up in the South of the United States, which is traditionally, I'm from the South of the United States, it's traditionally more prejudice towards brown and black skinned people. And he also is a man with lived experience with disabilities. He was born with a type of muscular dystrophy. His mom was told he would not live past 5. He is in a power wheelchair. He requires caregivers to support him, but he's brilliant. And he's a fantastic communicator, and he's a genius when it comes to leadership. And I think it's so important to be very deliberate about everything we're doing. But another thing we're going to do, Doug, is we are going to use the community. So for example, your website needs SEO, search engine optimization. We want to use people with disabilities that know how to do search engine optimization. Right now we have logos. We have 5 temporary logos that we've sent to our advisors. Once again, one of our advisors, and we've asked people to vote on which one they like, but they're only temporary. And the reason why is because we're going to do a contest where we go out to artists and designers with disabilities and we say, please design our logo for us. And then we're going to have the community vote on it. And then the corporate sponsors, because we have 35 corporations supporting us, so they're going to give us gifts and prize gifts for it, because what we're not going to ask them to do is do it for free, because I'm tired of everybody asking me to do work for free because I support people with disabilities. No, stop it. No, we're actually going to, and we're going to create bios. So if an artist or a designer with disabilities wants to design a logo, we're going to put a bio out. We're going to talk about their work and highlight them. And then we're going to have the community vote. And then the top 10, or I don't know, the top 5 will get prizes, cash prizes, laptops. So we're figuring all that out. And when we're building the website, we have the website. Now, once again, 90% of my team are people with disabilities. So we're already doing the work, but we want to build a very big, robust portal and app, but it has to be fully accessible. And so we're going to work with deaf kids that code and girls that code, but girls that code that have disabilities. So everything we're going to do is going to be with and for the community. And we're going to take on topics like, what is the right language when you're talking about people with disabilities? Is it people first language? A person that is blind? Is it disabled people like they say in the UK? But I don't think corporations should decide that. I think our community should decide it. And then we want to highlight entrepreneurs with disabilities and entrepreneurs without disabilities that are building technologies that support our community. So how do we do that? And also, bringing all these people together, the bigger we get, the more people we get in here, the bigger our voices are. So, for an example, Doug,
Right.
during the pandemic, there were some in the States, there were some governors, a lot of governors that were not prioritizing people with disabilities. And so I know that was happening in California. So we all went on social media and we were like yelling at the governor of California, but it didn't change. And then there were a lot of states that did not prioritize people with disabilities. But an example, in South Carolina, where Lamondre lives, he went on the news and talked about how his caregivers were eligible to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Excellent. But he wasn't eligible. Does that make sense that the caregivers can get it, but not the people they're caring
Right.
for? So the
No,
governor
it makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah.
the governor heard him and changed the rules. But think what we could have done. Think what we could do if we had millions and millions of people with disabilities and people that love us speaking from one voice. Look what the LGBT community did. They came together and they have different ideas of the world, and they came together in such an eclectic way, and now they have marriage equality. We've got a lot of work to do still, and this is Pride Month, but we have not come together. We've got to come together and we've got to celebrate each other,
Right.
and we've got to help each other. So yeah, that's
Right.
just a few of the things what we have. And we are going to make disability sexy. We really want to focus on that because people with disabilities are sexy, but we've got to come together and be very deliberate about these efforts.
Yeah. I love what you said about making disability sexy, because I think that's really also a piece at the heart of it. You can't gather a community if there's this, and that was a big part of the gay community and the LGBTQ community, was the idea of getting people out and saying, no, we are proud, right? There's a reason why there's Pride Month. And you're not going to shame us and stigmatize us into the margin. Don't ask, don't tell, but just don't talk about yourself, cover and downplay your identities. No, we're going to be proud. And that's what I love too about what you're doing, Deborah, is you are saying to people, be proud of who you are. Have you ever seen that Mexican, I think it's Mexican pottery, where they take these broken, like they take broken pieces of gold and they mix them together? I'll have to find the thing, but it's a whole like form of pottery, and where they take broken pieces and they put it together, and it's really beautiful. And this idea that you can take what's broken and make something beautiful out of that. And like you said, none of us are broken anyhow. So
Right.
that's not even, we're not broken people. But it's the other thing I thought of as you were talking about this was, there's a Jewish blessing that says you thank God for, says thank you for human beings, for all living beings, and their deficiencies. Is kind of the best way to describe it, or their what they lack. They're lacking. And so the question becomes, like, why would you be grateful? Like, why would you be thank you for creating human beings and their deficiencies? And the answer is, like, why would you be doing that? Because we need each other.
Right.
That way
Right.
we need each other. We all have differing abilities and strengths and needs. All of us,
Oh,
every human being. We all need each other, and they're always shifting. So that forces us to be a community. It forces us to work together. And the interesting thing is that I think as human beings, our greatest strength, we're not the strongest. We're certainly not the strongest of all the creatures on earth. What our biggest thing is our ability to work together. When we work together towards a common goal, that we can achieve anything. And no, I'm just amazed. Like, I think about this. Why has no one done this before, Deborah? Like, you're the first one really to do this, right?
I think because it's hard. And also, English, if you can't speak
Yeah.
English,
Yeah.
that's also a barrier to being employed because the United States has done a really good job of making English the language of business and everybody agree to it, but not everybody speaks English. And so if you speak solely Spanish or Arabic or any other language, you also are getting left out. And so to pull us all together when we all speak different languages, we all have different ideas of what disability is, we all have different rules. It's just really an audacious goal. But the way we discriminate against people with disabilities all over the world is really chilling. And I know that I was talking to a woman
Yeah.
that's blind that works for the government and very, very talented professional. And she says when she's walking to work, she lives in Washington, D.C., and she's walking to work and she's got a cane. People will stop her on the street and say, "Are you okay? Do you need some help? What are you doing?" And they're doing it lovingly. They want to help. And she'll say, "I'm going to work." "You work? Wow." And it happens all the time.
God bless you.
Work. Right. Oh,
Right.
oh my good point, Doug. I'm going to pray for your sight to come back. If you had enough faith, Doug, you could get your sight back. If you believed in God in the right way, it's just ridiculous. I remember Richard Dawkins making a tweet on Twitter saying, somebody said, "What happens if I have a fetus that has Down syndrome?" And he said, quote, "Abort it and try again." That made me so crazy
Yeah.
because no, my daughter
Right.
did not deserve to be aborted
Right.
because she had Down syndrome. My daughter's life matters, and she's added beauty in the world. And you know what, Doug? I look right now. You and I have our names, and my name it says Debra Ruh, she, her, hers, and yours is Doug Foresta, he, him, his. We right now are digging into our identities. Who are we? Are we non-binary? Are we they? We're digging into that. Why not dig all the way in and once again say, stop deciding that my life is a tragedy because I was born with a disability or I acquired a disability. All that means is that you're human. But we have to come together. And once again, as we saw more Americans self-identifying than ever before that they had disabilities, I thought this is a good sign. This is a good sign.
Deborah, I know people are going to want to know, so first question, how can people join the community? Is there a fee to join the community? But first of all, how can people join?
Yeah, and there's no fee. And we did that deliberately too, because once again, we're dealing with billions of people. And we didn't want to be a membership fee organization. I went back and forth, but it's very complicated. So it's free to join the movement. And you can join the movement, go to www.billion-strong.org. We'll say that a couple of times, billion-strong.org, and join the movement just so that you can help us. You can also join us as an advisor. And we have country advisors. Once again, we want advisors in every state, every country, every territory, because we are everywhere. We are everywhere, and we're part of intersections everywhere as well. And we want to really celebrate who we are. We want it to be about identity, but empowerment. I'll give you another comment, Doug. I was talking to a friend of mine in the United Kingdom, and they said that a CEO of a major technology company had approached him and said, "Hey, can you test me to see if I have dyslexia? Because I think it would be cool to be neurodiverse." And I will say, as somebody that's neurodiverse, it is cool, but wow, okay. So that is interesting. And all these beautiful efforts. You have the International Labor Organization, the Global Business Disability Network, you have the Valuable 500, you have Business Disability Forum, you have my purple light up, my purple space. You have disability in there. And so one thing we're going to do, Doug, is we don't want to duplicate what anybody else is doing, but we want to talk about what you're doing. So all of our country partners, we
Right.
go to them and we tell their stories. What's happening in India? There's a lot happening in India. There's a lot that still needs to be done. What's happening in China? It's not enough happening in China, but there's 1,500,000,000 people in China. And so there's so much work that needs to be done all over the world, but they're refugees. So many refugees have disabilities. So many in our prison system, 65% of our prison inmates have disabilities. Why are we warehousing people? Where is the disability justice? Where is we're doing all this work with artificial intelligence and making sure we have the right data sets. But we haven't come together as a community. We have to come together and help each other. If we did nothing else, once again, nothing else but buy and purchase and employ each other, we wouldn't even need anybody else. But of course, everybody is welcome. You don't have to have a disability to join. Just join us. And we really do need donations. We got a donation the other day from a princess in the UAE. And it was $2,000 donation.
Wow.
Just my heart. But we also have got donations of $10. And those $10 warmed my heart too, because we're in this together. So if we don't like the way our community is treated,
Every bit helps.
we're going to fix it. Yeah. Globally. Let's not leave anybody out, please. Let's not leave anybody out. But
and again, people can donate right on the site.
Yes, people can donate right on the site, and you can donate your time. You can volunteer with us. And one thing that we're committing to, we want to make sure that it's an identity organization. We want to only bring on people that have lived experiences with disabilities. And so we have hired Dr. Lamondre Pugh has agreed to be the CEO. He has lived experiences with disabilities. Sony Thompson is a member of the LGBT community and just learned over the last few months that she is also a member of the disability community because she has struggled with mental health issues related often to the mistreatment of that she was gay, but she has a really beautiful story that's out on billion-strong.org. And then we have Jasmine, who is blind, that lives in the Philippines, that is going to work with us, and Rosemary, that was born with cerebral palsy and is nonverbal and brilliant. But we just really, once again, this is an identity organization. So it is about really focusing and empowering each other and embracing our lived experience with disabilities, whether they're hidden or visible or some kind of combination. And so we're committing to use designers with disabilities and entrepreneurs with disabilities. We want our vendors to be people with disabilities. So once again, that's why we are billion strong, billion-strong.org. And I keep saying it, but billion-strong.org was available, but they wanted $4,000 for me to get that URL. It costed $10.
So we can put the hyphen. We can put the hyphen in.
Billion-.org. Billion-strong.org. Yeah, and it's so important. We need people to join the movement. We need people to donate. We need corporations to help us. We got a lot to do, but we've got to do this if we want to change the lives for ourselves and others. We have to do this. We have to come together.
Debra, it has been such a pleasure and such an honor to be on this journey with you, to know you, to be your friend through all these years, and to watch you come to this place. You are changing the world. Thank you for all that you do and for being such a ray of light in the world. I really mean that.
Doug. Thank you. And Doug, I think another thing we want to do, we can really explore the different types of disabilities. And there are superhero strength. And I'm not saying it's always great to have a disability. Sometimes it's hard, but sometimes it's hard being alive. But together, we're stronger, Doug. And that's why I'm so glad that you're also going to support a lot of the mental health discussions we're having and the work, life balance. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun and it's meaningful. So thank you so much, Doug, for helping me tell the story.
Thank you. Thanks, Debra. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Human Potential at Work, brought to you by Ruh Global Impact. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your audio. To learn more about Ruh Global Impact and the services we provide, visit ruhglobal.com. To learn more about how you can become a sponsor of Human Potential at Work, email David at ruhglobal.com. That's David at ruhglobal.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back next time with a new episode.